right, welcome everyone to this week's IPLD weekly call. It's November the 25th, 2019. And as every week, we go through the stuff that we've done last week and what we plan to do, and then talk about any open discussions that we might have. So I start with myself. So I actually can't recall what I did since the last meeting, because it was a while ago. But the important thing is that I'm now working 100% on file count till the testnet launch. But while doing this, there's still some IPLD related stuff that I will work on and in the background kind of. So I will still attend those meetings and also, do code reviews and so on. The code reviews might not be as fast as normally, but I will still do this. Yeah, that's basically all I have. And next up is Rod.
Right, so theoretically I've got more done than you guys last week. But I don't have as much to show for it, but I will do in the next day or two. I've just mainly been focusing on this browser testing thing and made really good headway. I have a tool that I'm trying to publish that just makes the whole process of I've got a JavaScript library. I want to know that it works in the browser. That process makes it easier. So I'll try and publish that today or tomorrow, and it'll be something to iterate on as well, to add coverage and explore ESM and other things. But it's a basic focused use case tool that isn't dependency heavy. Yeah. Anyway, that's mainly what I've been doing. I've done a little bit of seaborn parsing stuff, but it's mainly been focused on browser testing, which has been very educational, let's say. And that's really all I have to report.
Cool. And next up on my list is Eric.
So I don't have a ton to report from engineering stuff this week because it was a lot of humans things in the last week. But one piece of good news is I got to run the ideas that I'm calling the Racker pattern of design for memory allocation avoidance in the node builders in the CodeGen, past Hannah and, for example, among a couple other people. But we didn't find any obvious showstoppers in running over that design for a while. And I think that's like kind of the best feedback that I can possibly get, is that there's nothing obviously wrong with this. And we didn't come up with any obvious improvements either that had fewer drawbacks. So I think some of those ideas that I talked about the last time we were all together are probably going to move forward into implementation now. And hopefully we continue to find out showstoppers with them. And talking to a bunch, yeah?
I was wondering whether that is that the one that will do different allocation and building for encoding versus decoding, like where you have to pre-allocate the whole thing and then you do the internal bits. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is the case that the design is actually going to manage to cling to the exactly current node builder interface. It's just that many of the implementations will have these kind of nasty conditionals on them. Like if you call this set of functions in this order, then it's going to say no instead of working.
Yeah.
But we just, we failed to find any better idea than that. And it turns out to generally be the case that you call them in that order anyway. So really the rules, I'm just going to have to come up with some really good documentation around high-level rules of that interface and what you are definitely allowed to do, and then make sure that those rules are both documented and like that code is generally written to those rules. And I think also make sure that neither pathway gets loosey-goosey about the minimum rules. Like I want to, for example, one thing that could be done is when we're doing this memory sharing interface, it could be the case that it would actually make things visible even if you never called the set method, because you had gotten a derived node builder relationship, which is already initializing the same memory. But I'm just going to add enough detection and logic around that to make sure that it doesn't allow more visibility than the non-memory sharing implementation would, to make sure that people don't build things that are too sloppy and don't work with one code path or the other.
It's going to be an interesting documentation challenge.
Yep.
Just to explain why you can only do certain things in certain ways.
Yep. It's pretty much going to mean in practice lists only support linear appending, which is...
It's not
so
terrible.
I'm kind of... Yeah, it's not the worst, but it's a bit like... So some of the methods that are currently on there for like set at arbitrary index, I'm thinking it might actually make more sense to just drop support for those, because if that's going to end up being conditional and twisty, then you might as well just not have them.
If it's limited to a single block anyway, and it is pretty rare to do that. Just copying the entire data structure could offer you the same thing in the rare case that you need it. Yeah.
Yeah, not making that interface suck for advanced layouts is actually still a concern. So
advanced layouts are their own thing though. Like advanced layouts have like whatever fucking logic that anybody wants to write. I think that like what you've got to worry about at like the micro optimization layer is just like, you know, the common operations that people are going to do in a single block, right?
But I wouldn't want to stop offering the interface method for set at index I.
Right. But when you do that in the implementation, just copy it if you don't want to. Just do a full copy in order to get it out. If you can't do the operation any other way.
There are other reasons that won't work, but I probably don't want to try to, explain it right now.
Okay.
It turns out that would screw with the visibility model more than it's fiddly. Anyway, the other thing that I learned from the last week is getting to talk to some other people outside of the immediate group about stuff. The new knocks are really good, Rod. I don't know how often I can say that, and it won't be often enough. So holy crap, so much better.
So did you get people to read them?
Well, no.
Yeah.
Some.
A few people read them. I talked to a couple people that read them, or at least looked at them, and were pretty happy. So.
Good. I think as good as that stuff is, though, our next direction for growth is basically more smooth on-ramps for people who aren't. I think at this point we've got the documentation around schema stuff really solid, and the authoring guides there are super good. But now we're actually relatively sparse on the basic data model stuff and making sure that those have their own examples. And then just generally the entry point. I don't know if you guys saw the emails coming in from GitHub, but some people in the wider community have jumped in and said what is this homepage, please? And I think we knew that, but maybe it's time to do something about it.
At some point, we need to take ownership of the website and do something sensible with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did think that the next task to tackle would be, what is IPLD? What are we trying to solve? Talk about the data model. And that would open up, if we could do that well enough, it would open up some of the discussions that we keep on having about the data model and its restrictions. Even that UnixFS v1.5 thing, and the int maps came up, and it's well, okay, we're trying to constrain the data model a bit, but what do I link to? So it'd be good to have something explaining at least more of the philosophy in a digestible way.
Yep. So that's a wish list. And that's about all I learned this week.
Cool. Next one on the list is Michael.
Hey, hold on, let me pull it up. I just wrote notes and I've already forgotten them. Yeah, so I was at lab week, so not a lot happened last week. So coming into next week, I'm going to be solidifying a lot of the tool chain that I built in JS around IPLD schemas, and then just taking a bunch of open data sets and basically porting them into it, and writing lots of new schemas for different data structures that kind of test out the whole model and kind of like I want to make sure that I can at least import large data sets into these data structures and back out again. And the last little bit of news from the 2020 planning session was Unix v2 integration is getting delayed. The IPFS folks just don't really have the cycles to work on it in Q1. So some of the urgency around that is not there. And at the same time, our test case for testing a lot of not test, but our main use case for kind of driving IPLD schemas is getting delayed. So that kind of led me to find some of these open test cases, open data cases as well, and use those to solidify the stack in the meantime. That's about it for me.
Cool, thanks. I remember that last week I also talked with Eric about how things work in Go IPLD. And that basically helped me because already before the lab week, I had the idea that probably we might not even need Serde, or it would work without it. Or and I came to the realization that Serde would be just basically be more of another layer of indirection. So it isn't too bad to use it. It might still make sense in the future to kind of have an adapter for Serde supported formats as well. But I will probably just move on without Serde and use the CBOR parser directly.
Mm-hmm. I had a quick talk with Stephen about that, and we kind of realized that it's actually really easy for all of this stuff to support Serde just one directionally, right? Like you can add the Serde traits to all the IPLD stuff, so it works as good as Serde can support, even if we didn't use Serde as the core thing.
Yes, but basically, so my plan wasn't that IPLD is supported by Serde, but that we can use Serde supported formats in IPLD. If this makes sense.
Yes.
So, but
okay.
But this might also be cool. Yeah, that basically people could use any format that implements IPLD could use Serde serialization. Might also be nice, and this should be, as Steven says, quite pretty straightforward. Cool, and that's all I have. I see we have someone new join this meeting, and you might want to introduce yourself really quick.
No mic.
Okay, then that's fine.
Welcome.
Welcome, yeah, of course. Cool. So if you have any questions or something, then you can also feel free to put it on the chat. So we can answer them. Is there anything else on our agenda? Does anyone has anything else to talk about?
Eric, what do you think your time frame for the Go in the next, well, what's in the next month or two for Go IPLD Prime? Like what do you see as the roadmap, and how quickly will you get things done?
So I'm going to take a couple days off this week, lest I burn out. After that, so whether or not this design with rackers and how to handle this shared memory stuff will work has been a question that had been bugging me and was kind of a blocker for quite some time now. And I think the answer is confidently, yes, this design works now. So I'm going to get back to banging it out in the next week. And I don't know if I have a super high res expectation of how that's going to go. I've ended up kind of deferring that whole set of problems and questions around the maybe stuff as well, because that turned out to be entangled with all this. So that's going to come back after that. But a lot of the other questions about native typed Go builder patterns the answer has also turned out to be forced by this memory layout stuff. Basically, trying to use helper struct is non-viable entirely. It's all going to be fluent builder patterns because there's just no other way to do it correctly. So that answers those questions. I don't know. I guess at this point, there's lots of code banging out to do, and I hope most of the questions are resolved, except for the maybe ones.
So are you saying Fluent's going to be the only way to do this?
As far as I can figure out, yes.
Okay.
Some of the earlier drafts, I was trying to make some some structs with exported fields that would be a reasonable way to do builder patterns. And at this point, I don't actually see obvious ways to do that and get the correct memory efficiency.
Yeah.
So it's just a quietly infuriating thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we have any guarantees at all on Hannah's time for reviewing and interacting on this stuff, or is it simply only what Filecoin needs? Actually, Filecoin. Oh no, GraphSync makes it. Yeah. Okay. So
the new GraphSync stuff isn't being driven by Filecoin. Filecoin doesn't technically use.
So why are we getting Hannah's time?
Stuff. So it's I don't think I can talk directly to it, but it's an IPFS use case. It is a very important use case for IPFS, a very important user of IPFS that needs GraphSync to solve a problem on Unix v1, or technically v1.5, because we're also adding some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't have any guaranteed time on this for reviewing this stuff.
For the next person to start depending critically on the Go cogen, yeah, I don't think there's any super strict deadline. I personally want it to be done so I can go do something more fun, but that's about it. That's the only forcing function. I'm hoping that a lot of it gets done throughout December. There will probably be some left over in January. I don't know how much. Hopefully not much more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been away from the actual typing of it for quite a while we did other team stuff in the last week or so. So I don't know. I don't have a good estimate today.
All right. Anything else? It doesn't look like it. Then I close this meeting for this week and hope to see you all next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Ciao.
Goodbye.